Well, good morning. Good to be with you on a Tuesday as we launch into another breakfast with Jesus together. It's good to be with you, and I hope it's good to be with me. But even if it's not, well, I'm still going to do this anyway. Oh, my goodness. Hope your day's starting off well. I appreciate you taking time whenever you can. If it's not here during this live broadcast, I know that many folks dip in whenever you have a free moment or two, and I appreciate that very much. Someday I'm going to figure out how to actually see who watched each show every day. I don't know how to do that. I'm not even sure you can, but it's just good to know that you guys are out there and I'm here and we can fellowship virtually. I'm telling you, this is just an amazing thing that we now can do this, right? We have the two or three gathered together in his name. He's here with us, even though we're not in the same room. It's amazing. Oh boy. Well, let me say good morning to those of you that are jumping right in here. Let's see, Jackie and Ada, Donna, Jane, my goodness, Linda and Franny. Good morning. Shalom. Ralph and Rosa and Jack. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate being able to talk with you here live as we get underway today. So I think we'll be finishing up with this little parable today. But we've really done a deep dive over these past few weeks. First into Jesus' parable about the sower and the seed and the different soils, and then moving into this other parable here in Mark 4, where now it's us sowing seed and what that looks like and how that develops and how we grow and how we mature. And so the final result of this is, as Jesus says here in Mark 4:28, that we have the mature grain in the head. Doesn't that sound good? Mature grain. And verse 29, when the crop permits, he immediately puts in the sickle because the harvest has come. And that's really what Papa wants for us, is he wants us to produce such amazing fruit from our lives that there's a harvest that, as we understand harvest, it benefits so many. When farmers bring in the harvest, even back in Jesus' day, when they brought in the harvest, it was a time of rejoicing because there was provision and abundance and all kinds of good things, celebrating the blessings of God. And that's really what we get to do as well in exploring our unique creativity. And what does that look like, right? So before I start recovering all this material, you'll have to go back if you've missed any of the prior episodes. But I wanted to, I think, finish this up by bringing you back to the original sense of this, the beginning, really, of when God initiated this idea that we were going to be here in relationship with him, but that our role here on the earth was one of creating and producing and having fruit that would be a blessing. And so to do that, we go all the way back to Genesis, where we hear the voice of the Father saying to Adam and Eve in Genesis 1:28, it says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it and rule. And then he says, rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, over every living thing that moves on the earth. And, I know that many of us here were familiar with this passage. We're familiar with this verse. We even think we're familiar with the word blessed. And I know I thought so. But when I really dug into what's going on here, You know, when you read the phrase, God blessed them, well, what does that actually mean? I mean, we kind of know what blessing is all about, that it's some good thing, or, God showing his love to us, or providing something, answering a prayer. I mean, many different ways that we can understand this idea of God blessing. So I looked into the Hebrew because that's the language, obviously, that this passage was written in. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew. And the word here for blessed, obviously, it could be a verb, or it can be a noun, or a description. Um, and so when you look at the word from the standpoint of uh, describing something, right, as an adjective, it talks about really getting down on your knees before someone who is so much greater than you, and asking for blessing, asking for favor from that greater one. That's the picture that's inherent in this word here. And so, obviously, that's a good description of our relationship with the Father, right? He is the great one, He is the greatest. We are just simply His creations who, if you got your head screwed on right, that He's the greater and we are the lesser, right? But the picture here, which is one of humility, it really shows us coming to Him for help. You know, it it shows us that He wants us to come to Him for help, number one. But there's something even more in view here, which is this idea that He has already decided from the beginning that that's what He wants to do. That this idea of us coming to Him is not because we have to try to persuade or convince Him that He needs to bless us, which unfortunately is a mindset that many people have about God. That we've got to jump through so many different hoops and do all these kinds of different things in order to merit or be worthy of His attention and His time and His blessing in our lives. But that's not what's in view here, because it says that God blessed them. So this was something that He initiated, something that He decided. And that right there is a huge, beautiful picture of His grace. Okay. That the Father simply decided, I'm going to create these special race of beings in our image. We're going to make them like us in some ways. And in order for them to be successful, to be fruitful here on this planet that we've created just for them, I'm going to bless them. I'm going to bless them. well, what does that mean? Well, it means that He decided from the very beginning that He was going to give us favor with Him, that we would have favor, right? He made a proactive decision to grant us favor, which basically means we have access to Him and everything that He is, all that He is, all that He has, we have access to, right? To cause us to prosper, to be abundant in our lives, right? This was His decision from the very beginning. And what's fascinating about this, when you look at how this was constructed in the Hebrew language, like other languages, you have these verbal tenses, and you have moods, and you have different ways that these words can be written. Well, the word here is written in a tense in the Hebrew that always is used to express intensive or intentional action. So, so God in his decision to bless, this wasn't just some random thought that he had, but it was rather something that he thought deeply about and decided, yeah, this is how I'm going to relate to humans and how I want them to relate to me. And so it was intentional, but it was also extremely intensive. And it also has as part of its meaning this idea that it's repeated, that it's not just one time, it's an extended kind of an action. And so what we can take from all of this, right, is that he is he has decided from the beginning, um, through this, intensive intentional action on his part, right, which is not finished yet, it's not complete, but it's ongoing, right? Again, this is the grace of God that is pervasive, and it's his nature. This is his nature. I'm trying to expand your picture of God's blessing, which he instituted from the very beginning. This thing that he decided, this way of relating to us, is something that he put in place from the very beginning to grant us favor, to be with us, and to support us, to be for us and not against us. See, this is what he decided from the beginning, and he put it in motion. And this blessing, here's the thing that we really need to understand, this blessing that he pronounced upon Adam and Eve wasn't just for them, but it's ongoing, and it covers every single person at any moment, any time in history. The blessing of God is in effect, and it will remain in effect. Why? Because he never changes. See, this blessing that he pronounced in Genesis at the very beginning is merely a reflection of, a manifestation of his own nature. And so he is declaring to us, "See, this is who I am. Would you please understand that and agree with it so that you can receive it?" We absolutely need to live under the reality of his ongoing, intentional, intensive posture of blessing in our lives. It's not something that goes away, not something that we can, become disqualified for, right? Remember, this is something that happened before the fall, and so it's something that is always going to be there. Again, because it's his nature, but because Jesus, the last Adam, has restored us now back to the kind of relationship with the Father that Adam and Eve enjoyed. And actually, what we have is even better than what they had, because they were not yet really fully born again the way we are. They didn't have God dwelling in them as we do. So, this idea of blessing, which is now something that we can appreciate and understand and accept and live in. I mean, can you feel the change in atmosphere that makes, to know that we are always blessed, that we are always in a place where we can receive his blessing and live in it, know that it's always going to be there for us in whatever we do, right? I mean, this that means that everything that happens in our lives, there's something good there. Maybe we haven't seen it yet, maybe we haven't understood it, but that's what it means when it says that he is for us and not against us. When it says that all things work together for good to those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. We This is the kind of life that he is calling us to live, in the presence of that blessing. So, as I pondered this, and I pondered the whole passage, really, where, he blessed them and us and says, here's what I want you to do: be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and rule. I began to receive from him revelation about what that can mean, what that can look like. And so I'm just going to read for you what he gave me. This is going back, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I was really studying this very intensively. Right? So here we go. This is, just receive this as him talking to you. Okay, because that's how I wrote it down. I have chosen from the beginning to release life, favor, and provision to you, that you may prosper and be abundant. My intensive, intentional action toward you, which is for your benefit, is not finished or complete, but ongoing. I've positioned myself in your life as the one who continually and without fail supports and provides for your well-being and success. It is my very nature to give favor and blessing, which is my grace. And my grace is what makes it possible for you to experience the fulfillment of my purposes for your life, which are to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue all opposition, and establish my kingdom rule through you, all for my glory. That's what he gave me for the word blessed. And then moving on to the next word, which is be fruitful, right? And again, we've talked about that it's all about our creativity in whatever form that takes, that what we produce, that's the fruitfulness that we're created to release, to bless the world, that God wants to bless the world through us, right? And that creativity can release transformation in people's lives. So here's what he wants. This is what he said to me and what I'm going to release to you. I have empowered and authorized you to speak my words after me, and thereby create an environment conducive to the growth of the seed of my word in your life. My word in your mouth is as a two-edged sword that causes your enemies to scatter and releases the wind of my spirit to blow away the chaff in your life. Your agreement with my will for you positions you to receive and possess the inheritance I have reserved for you, a destiny that will be revealed in due season, so that you will bring great glory to me and great blessing to the world around you. And then we move on to the word multiply, which has really, as its understanding, this idea of becoming great, becoming many, right? More numerous, just more, having a multiplication, right? So the root idea here is increase. Okay. Here's what he said to me. I have empowered and authorized you to fully possess your inheritance, your destiny, as you take responsibility to activate and implement the blueprint that I gave you to carry. You will build a place of security, provision, and increasing influence as your creativity reveals my glory for all to see and releases my blessing upon many. That's pretty cool. All right, next one is the word fill. And this idea here has to do with, in this word, it has to do with filling to overflowing. There's an idea here of an abundance. It's like you're filling up an empty space to where it's not just full, but it's now filled to overflowing. Okay. So abundance and overflowing, that's really what the word fill here is talking about. So here's what he said to me about that. I have given you an abundance so great, you will grow to cover your sphere as the water covers the sea, leaving no part untouched. I have given you authority to lead and serve as my son did, by declaring my presence in my kingdom and by releasing my blessing into every place the sole of your foot treads upon. Take my yoke upon you and know that in our partnership together, I am leading you, strengthening you, protecting you, and giving you the wisdom you need to succeed. Wow. Then we talk about subdue. And the root idea here in this Hebrew word is to tread with the feet, to trample underfoot, right? And so it has this idea of conquering, of subjugating enemies, bringing whatever opposition into subjection. So here's what he gave me for this one. I have empowered and authorized you to overcome every enemy in your sphere that opposes the establishment of my kingdom through you. I'm training your hands to war with my word, to destroy the works of the evil one, even as my son did in his earthly days. I am giving you my strategies to clear out your sphere of all influences that stand against the changes I want to bring through you. You will not draw back, but press through every obstacle, knowing you are already victorious in my son. That's pretty awesome. And then the final uh, of these 5 charges that we've received from the Lord is the word rule. And this idea is basically establishing the dominion of God's kingdom, right? The word kingdom is the king's domain. And so ruling has to do with establishing that, setting it in place, setting in order so that now things are being done the way they should be. Even as Jesus, commanded us to declare, your kingdom come now, your will be done now, as in heaven, so on earth now, right? Whew, powerful stuff. And what's interesting here is that the word picture in this Hebrew word for rule actually means to tread as in a wine press. So you've got this, the word subdue is treading, but that's talking about treading down the enemy and whatever enemies there are. And yet the word rule has the same idea of treading, but it's treading a wine press. So as I was meditating on this the other day, I all of a sudden realized, oh my gosh, you know the things that we learn in warfare are also things that we do to be productive. Right? The treading of our enemies, the treading down of the enemy and putting things under our feet. Well, we're going to continue to do that, but it's going to be a productive thing. Treading a wine press means that the fruit of the vine is being transformed into a different form that becomes a blessing to the world around us in some ways, right? So treading in a wine press is a picture here where you are doing what you're called to do and there's no opposition. It's fruitfulness. It's producing something powerful, right? And so, we do this ruling thing to make sure that all that God desires through us remains in place and gets released. So here's what he gave me on that one. He says, I have empowered and authorized you to administrate the kingdom resources I have apportioned to you in your sphere. There is an open heaven over you and your sphere, and you will move freely there to maintain the boundaries of my kingdom rule in that place. My blessing rests there and is available to all who see and recognize what I am doing through you. What I have given you to do shall come forth in fullness, and your fruit shall remain for my glory and the glory of my son. Whew. That's just some awesome stuff. But that's what he gave me. And that's really where we're all heading in our journey with him, right? We get to go back to be able to go to the future And so understanding what his original intent was, what his heart was from the beginning for us. And if we can recapture that and stand in agreement with that and operate under that, we literally have nothing that could ever stop us from becoming all that he created us to be and doing all that we were created to do. Some good stuff. So I just pray that all of that blessing, I release all of that over you. And once again, if you feel that you want some help in your personal journey toward all that, feel free to reach out. Send me an email, Facebook me, private message. I would love to hear from you, and we can talk about what needs to happen in your life so that all this awesomeness gets released and you start to live that out. Once again, thank you if you are sharing this with your friends. I do appreciate so very much having you guys do that for me. Let's say good morning to the rest of this awesome breakfast club. Joanne and Cindy and Bernadette, good to see you. There's Marie. It's been a while. How are you? Nicole, good morning to you. Patty, Gabriella, how are you? He's my buddy Danny. Keith, Melly, good morning. Bill, yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it so very much. And I certainly hope you have an awesome day and that, put some of this into practice. You are blessed so that you can bless whoever God shows you to bless. That's about it, right? So go have some fun with that. And I'll be back to see you tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you, Lord, for a beautiful day. Thank you, Lord, for a beautiful day.